Welcome to Lorehammer, episode 45, Skitarrii.
Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. My name is Eric.
Hey, I'm Mark, and we're recording live from my parents' basement.
That's right.
Which is always fun. My parents' basement.
I don't understand why we're recording live.
Obviously,
when you were recording,
Yeah.
you were live.
Yeah.
And once
right
you
now,
submitted it, it's then
no
just a
longer
recording.
live. Okay.
Yeah, I don't...
Well, I guess.
Anyways.
I guess culture has affected me in a deep and meaningful way.
I don't think so. Joining us today is Steve.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good. Good to have you back.
Yeah, good to be back.
By
popular
request.
demand.
Yeah, popular demand, really.
Yeah.
Well, and by back, I mean I never left. I was just
You were
locked in
under the
basement.
bed.
Yeah.
That's what those noises were.
I was the reason the downstairs blanket was upstairs.
And then also joining us today, we have Colyn.
Is there any doubt that I was going
No.
to be on this episode?
Of course. I think it would have been the ultimate insult to you if we hadn't had you on.
No, for sure. I actually would have gone and just created my own episode
Yeah,
and just
yeah.
posted it on the Facebook page. People have been like, it's just him by
Yeah,
himself.
why is he just recording off his iPhone while he's walking? And he's like, hey guys, so those losers at Lorehammer.
Or I could just do impersonations of your voices and talk to myself for an hour or so.
I don't think you could get away with saying what I say, though.
I wouldn't want to. Mark.
That's
Well, I
right.
know.
No one.
So what are we talking about today?
But today, obviously, is going to be great for Colyn. Because it's always a good day when Colyn's on our podcast. I don't know what I'm going for there. But today we're talking about Skitarrii. We are talking about the military branch, one of the military branches of the cult Mechanicus.
The Adeptus Mechanicus, even, some would say.
Oh, God, yeah. No, sorry. There's so many words floating around.
There's a lot of Mechanicums, Mechanicuses. Each one has...
cults, Adeptus.
Just put cyber or tech in front of everything you say,
Yeah.
Okay.
and it will be applicable.
So when I go...
and add us.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
you could just say, hand me the cyber water, or
Yeah,
can I
I'll
have
go
that
fill up-
techno burger?
I'll go fill up my cyber water bottle with this techno water, and we can really get our neurocircuitry flowing.
Perfect.
With
Get the cogitators working.
That's right. That's a good one. But before we get started, there are a couple housekeeping items we need to take care of. First is we need to say a thank you to our newest Patreon, Brian. Obviously, thank you so much for contributing to our podcast. I'm going to say this every time, and Mark's going to tell me how ridiculous I am.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
obviously, guys, we would not have done this without you and your contributions, because I would not have sunk more money into this. Would you have, Mark?
I don't have money to
Well,
sink to
exactly.
begin with.
So we couldn't have done it.
Oh, my God.
You
I don't know how
could
many
just
times
not
I-
buy models for a month and then save your money.
Well, come on, let's not get carried away
Priorities.
here.
You got to have
Yeah.
priorities.
Yeah.
We still need to talk about how my last two checks have bounced, guys. So.
You're getting paid?
No, well, from them, but I haven't been able to cash anything for the last two checks.
Hermit was way too expensive. We used all our money on him.
The real problem is Brian. He's a cheapskate and probably only donated $1.
Fair enough.
So you can
Wow.
email him. I'll give you his email.
Perfect.
You
No,
two can
we
hash
will
out
not. No, we do not
payment.
give
We
out
blew
your
the budget on techno water this time.
all our cyber water bottles. Yeah. But Mark, you also
Another
got
thank you goes out to Wolf1103. He took the time to count how many times Eric said, "That's right." Say it so people know.
That's right.
In the last episode, and it was 44 times. So
Can we beat your record?
I was telling that to someone, to Nathan, who we play with all the time, but it still hasn't been on this podcast.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, we gotta get
he's a lazy son of a bitch. Just kidding. No, I want him on here. But he looked at me dead in the eyes as I said that, and he's like, Eric, that's right. We're in the middle of the university, and I just burst out laughing.
Does that mean you have your own catchphrase now?
It's not even mine. I stole it from my roommate. It's not mine. I'm ashamed of that. But we also want to get just have a little fun before we get started. And Colyn we're going to play a game that he created.
All right. So this game is called Skitarrii Upgrade or Real World Headline.
Oh.
So what we're going to do is we are going to be hearing a couple different news stories, and your job is to find out whether it is a fictional tale woven from the Adeptus Mechanicus and the Skitarii, or if it's actually an example of real world tech, cutting edge tech here on Earth.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
Let's see what you got.
Couple questions. I hate being wrong.
Yeah.
So am I allowed to use Google?
Well, I'll just turn the iPad so you can see the answers while the
perfect.
other two can't.
No,
Okay.
because that's assuming he can read that fast.
That's assuming he can read.
The lessons are working. It's just it's a slow. It's
a process.
It takes
Baby
time.
steps.
All right. So are you ready for the first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lay it on us.
Let's open this up. Scientists invent legs that can feel like real legs.
Go ahead, Mark.
True. Real world headline.
I'm saying true as well. That exists in real life.
I'll give it to our real world scientists. That seems like it might be a thing.
That's
All right.
a 3 for 3.
Yeah. All right. That was really quick. So it is true.
That's right.
I kind of doubt.
Have you seen they're making hands that
Yeah.
move and fingers that operate individually
Yeah.
that are also covered with skin-like things that can tell you what you're touching. And so, because
Yeah.
one of the big problems with bionicle prosthetics is that
Pressure.
you crush. Yeah, exactly. It's pressure because you don't know what's in your hand. You don't know
Yeah.
how hard to grip.
Yeah.
But they're creating these things where you can actually feel what's it.
It's
Science
fucked.
is wild.
So this was out of MIT, and so they led the research. And what they did is they did tests on 7 people who received these improved amputation augmentations.
Now, did they amputate these people?
No,
That's right. They ground.
No, but what they did is
7 random people off the street.
one of them could be you. You know, don't walk past
Have you heard of
MIT.
the Omnissiah?
Yeah, they were able to wiggle robotic feet, climb steps, and do other tasks that many of us take for granted. And they were doing this with no major delays to their bionic legs, interpreted by the brain's instructions.
We're so close.
Yeah.
Like it's disgusting. I'm ready.
I don't feel like the Mechanicus would give you feelings in your legs.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's an option they would skimp on.
Yeah. They'd be like,
There's,
not important.
there's
Why do
reasons for it and reasons against. If you're on a battlefield, you get shot in the leg, you're going to turn those sensors off.
Yeah.
So here's the next one, okay? Ready? The U.S. government invents drone with the thought patterns of a combat veteran.
Wouldn't that be a real world headline because you just said the U.S.?
Well, does it exist in a real world, or did the Skitarii create something with a thought pattern of a?
Oh, okay. I'm gonna say Skitarrii has done that.
I don't think the U.S. government has mapped a brain yet.
No, and especially not a combat veteran and like dug into his experience. I'm gonna say that's a Skitarii upgrade.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a false. This is not true. This is not a real world headline. The brain is too complex.
we're good, Mark.
At this point.
We should give him my brain.
Didn't we talk last time it was here? We were talking about who gets the brain and who gets the body augmented. We don't want your brain, Mark. We are quite fine.
I'll take the body though. What?
Oh.
Stop looking at me like that, Mark. You know it's for science.
Here's the next one. Military increases lethality by adding augmented reality eyes to 100,000 soldiers.
Eyes.
Somebody else go.
No, there's no way that's true.
No, that's got to be Skitarii.
Yeah.
I don't think they can make like a robot eye that's as good as ours
They
right
could-
now.
Like we could do like virtual reality stuff where they put a screen in front of you and then they could augment your reality, like putting a camera on the outside and a screen on the inside, and it could give you like different spectrums and stuff. Like I think
Or like
that's
a-
true,
or like
but
a
I don't
heads-up
think
Or
or
giving
they're-
you heads-up displays about different
Yeah.
combat information, which is very
Exactly.
essential for this topic of the Skitaris.
Yeah, but I don't think they're replacing eyes.
They could give you like your health counter on your HUD. It'd just be like a 1.
Exactly. Yeah.
One bullet will do.
Exactly.
All right, so this one,
Oh, Mark, what did you say?
Real world.
You think that's real?
guess what? This one's a tricky one. Although they are not truly eyes, they are called HoloLenses, and this is true.
What?
U.S. soldiers are going to be wearing Microsoft
Goddamn, I'm good at
AR
this game.
goggles. The U.S. Army just bought 100,000 of them. Treat them as a goggle, but if you look at a Skitarii with the eye implants, which are effectively these discs, they look the same.
It's like a lens that you look through.
Yes.
So is it like you get laser eye surgery and they like sculpt your lens? Do they stick something in?
It is
then?
an over-the-eye augmenting.
So you can
So
take
it's
it
like
off.
a contact
you can take
lens
them
almost.
off. That said, there's also a lot of speculation that as technology gets smaller, you're not going to need the over-the-eye goggles.
You'll
You
just
can
need
actually do
contact
this
lens.
contact lenses.
Yeah.
Or at least something that sits over top of your eye and then cables feed into it. So imagine having
Excellent.
contact lenses that had cables running directly into the tops of them.
I swear I've seen a movie where a guy had a contact lens that had a little spike that went into his eye. It was like a
Minority
Mission
Report.
Impossible or something.
Next one. New fabric cools or insulates depending on its environment, allowing war to be waged in the most hostile of environments.
Real world.
Oh,
I'll say
100%.
that's real world.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm sure
that's
the
real.
U.S. Army has invented a blanket.
That's like 10
Reverse
years
engineered
ago.
it from alien material that they found.
Well, next to the microwaves that they
Yes.
also took from the aliens.
Yes, absolutely.
So again, important for Skitarii and the robes that they wear. This is 100% real.
Yeah.
Allowing
Damn.
people to go and keep a lot of the technology that they are wearing in a controlled environment just by closing the cloak around them. It's a small thing you think of because if you're out in space and all the technology is exposed, we think of spacesuits, we think of how that stuff frees and you have to insulate and protect circuitry. Well, this is a way of doing that. And let me do one more here. Let's see. Scientists insert conductive crystals beneath
Into
the
anus.
not quite beneath the
Damn.
skin
No longer interested.
to harvest the electromagnetic energy which can be redirected at opponents.
Skitarrii.
I wish that was real, but I'm going to say Skitarri.
Crystals.
Rectal,
Just sounds too much like Reiki for me.
rectal crystals
no,
to blast
exactly.
your enemy.
No, those are like a.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
No, it's fake.
Straight up electro priest.
It is straight up electro priest.
Oh, yeah, buddy.
It's not technically crystals. It's a tattoo. It's a neurocircuitry. It is
Electro-two.
electus.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's like an ink that like functions as circuitry along their body.
Think of it like those.
It's like chi.
Yeah, well, think of those 3D pens where you can actually draw and the ink stands up as you're drawing upwards.
Yeah, I've
it's
seen
like
those.
that. I have a bonus round, last one.
Sudden death.
This is for all the
Wait,
marbles.
we're dying?
Only if you get it wrong.
Oh, okay.
I'm a Skitarii Vanguard. I'm filled with radiation. You've been dying this whole time.
Slowly.
Oh god.
Scientists connect the brains of 3 people, letting them share thoughts through a neural link.
Real world.
What? Really?
Oh yeah, buddy. Science is fucking wild.
Share thoughts by a neural link.
I cannot think of 2 people I would want to be mind linked to, honestly. That'd be fucked.
Well, hurt feelings first of all.
I gotta
Having good
say,
friends,
I don't
but-
think that's real. I don't think they've truly shared thoughts.
it's like a weird human centipede kind of thing.
A very different level, though.
I'm going to say that's from the game.
Okay. And the answer is, drum roll. True.
Oh my!
Hot damn, I'm good at this.
October 2018, which will date
that's
the episode.
very new.
Very recent. They were able to hook up 3 people through a combination of electrocephalograms and using transcranial magnetic stimulations, or TMS.
Oh, of course, yeah.
I know what I'm talking
I know
about.
this.
Naturally.
Yeah, sure.
Now, is this a sci-fi episode or?
Neurons were able to be simulated using magnetic fields caused by people's brains, allowing 3 people to work together in something called a brain net. You can look this up. This is getting really close to the sort of new sphere
Skynet.
technology. Yep.
Do you want Terminators? This is how you
This
get
is like-
Terminators.
So, as the clear winner of this,
Okay.
thank you first of all for showing me the answers.
You're,
But what do I get?
you get a firm high five. Here we go. Hands up.
Ow.
That was firm.
Well, it was on one side. The other side was decidedly soft.
Yes.
There's
Wow.
lots of give in Mark's wrist.
That brain one is pretty crazy, actually.
Nuts.
But now that we are thoroughly entrenched in the realm of augmentation and what is real and what is not,
I know what's real and what's not.
step into the purple door. But let's buckle down, guys. Let's get right into the Skitarii. How does that sound?
Sounds good. I've got a quote that could help start us off from one of the books.
Absolutely.
Right. To an enemy of the cybernetic soldier, though the enemy of the cybernetic soldiers might appear as machine spirit guided robots, the Skitarii were more than just hydraulics, gears, and processors. They hated with the hearts of men and dreamt the glories of the Omnissiah Ascendant, a day when all true constructs of flesh and irons might be connected as one.
So that's definitely a real world headline.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's that from?
That's from
That's from
Skitarii.
the New York.
New
Yeah,
York
New York
Times.
Times.
New York Times.
The Guardian.
What's it from?
That's from Skitarrii. If you're looking for a book that's just like pretty much a Skitarii love letter, this is the one you pick up.
That was a good book.
Did you read it?
I listened to it on audiobook when I was running a loader.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good, yeah.
It
You
kinda-
really felt one with the machine while you're loading stuff.
Well, it was pretty nice, too, because the loader was new enough. I just had a joystick. So I was just, like, lounging down like this, just fucking doing my thing.
I saw this one meme a little while ago, and it's like people who drive cars, right? There's two different people, automatics and manuals.
Yeah.
And people who drive automatics. Yeah, I drive an automatic. People who drive manuals. I drive a manual because I'm not a bitch. And when I drive a manual, I feel like a man. And when I shove that stick up my ass, I really know that I'm driving a manual. And I was like, oh, like
I've
is
been
that-
shifting wrong this entire time.
Is that what it really feels like to attach yourself to the machine?
I think that voids the warranty.
I was like, I'm not prepared to drive my car like this, I think. Anyways, just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Nice little story.
Nice little image that we have now.
Oh, you shouldn't be... Mark, don't
It's nice.
think about it.
Honestly, I'm scared of my car's gear shift. It's like,
You can take it.
oh yeah, it's on the lube. You just gotta sit down slow.
All right, let's talk about Skitarii. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Mechanicum, or the Adeptus Mechanicus, and Skitarii's purpose. And the mainly being because when the Mechanicus was the Mechanicum, so this is before the Schism of Mars, before the Horus Heresy, the Mechanicum wasn't supported directly by the Imperial Navy or its armies.
Yeah, like they were their own empire.
They developed, Mars developed differently than Terra. They
Yeah.
were ruled differently. They advanced differently. So they needed their own protection.
Yeah.
And they did this through the Skitarii.
Yeah. The Skitarrii is basically a catch-all term for like all their infantry, all their tanks. It includes a whole vast array of things. But yeah, so the existence of the Skitarii predates the Imperium.
Yeah, it's
And
interesting to note that it's older than the
Yeah.
Imperium of Man.
We were kind of talking like when we thought it would happen, like when would the Skitarii actually like come around?
and be like a thing.
yeah, and like really,
About 100 years after Elon Musk lands out there,
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of thing.
absolutely,
Or
yeah.
he's probably developing robot legs as we speak.
Well, who do you think's heading this thing where they can go upstairs and stuff?
I got my ticket for the flight out there. I am going. I am ready. My body is ready.
I think you need a few more augmentations.
I'll get there. I just had one recently, so actually,
Whatever it takes.
whatever it takes.
if you want, I can wrap some electrical wire around you. We can get you some
Some
electro
tinfoil.
tubes.
Tinfoil.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this just for the Facebook and Instagram, just me like
Yeah.
wrapped in tinfoil. But they've
Colin's Crux Mechanicus.
Low budget Skitarrii cosplay.
it's great to see that they've existed since the early days of Mars, because they are kind
Yeah.
of the Martian version of the like Thunder Warriors. Like when you had the techno barbarians existing on Mars, or sorry, on Terra, the natural counter to that would be, well, what do you have on Mars? You've got Skitarii. It's a different
Yeah.
kind of techno barbarian, but these guys are a lot more regimented. They're a lot closer to superhuman, post-human, transhuman
Yeah.
warriors, because they have doctrine, they have discipline. So I always thought of saying it's kind of that when you have two streams of evolution, whereas on one side you have a lot of the genetic and psychic from Terra going down one evolutionary track, and
Yeah.
you get the Space Marine. Well, with Mars, you go down the other, and you get things like the Tagmata, you get the Skitarii
Myrmidons.
and Myrmidons. You get these giant cybernetic brutes rather than the genetic pinnacles of mankind.
That makes sense. I like that.
Well, yeah, it's like when you don't have the ability to use the warp or be a psyker, you need to fill that gap with something else. So you advance your technology to fulfill that, right? So
yeah, they've been around for a while,
they've been around for a long time.
and they have their own command structure, hierarchies, and all that kind of stuff. Like,
So
they've developed independently.
They are technically like while they're a part of like Mars and the Forge worlds, they do have like a separate function within them. So it's like they're part of the Cult Mechanicus, but not. Colin was saying it earlier that everyone in the Skitarii is a part of the Cult Mechanicus, but not everyone in the Cult Mechanicus is a part of the Skitarii.
yeah,
Yeah, it's who follows that dogmatic religion. And
yeah.
the other thing too is just for structures that the Forge worlds are not required to submit troops to Imperium forces.
Yeah, like it's a
There's
separate
no
empire.
tithe for it. Or
There's no
anything.
tithe for it. Sorry, guardsmen.
Yeah.
But that said, Skitarii are less like planetary defense forces, and they're more like private armies of a tech priest or of a
Archmagos.
Yes, yeah. So whereas these different groups will accumulate wealth, I actually think it's a little bit more similar to the feudal systems you see with the knight households.
Or even kind of like rogue traders too. How like
Yeah, it just depends how big that empire is, and
Yeah.
you know if you're the fabricator general of Mars, you got the biggest one.
yeah.
So
Well, you're swinging that stick
winging
around.
it, yeah.
Right?
So yeah,
The big boy Mars stick.
That's right.
so yeah, quite feudal.
What sets the Skitarii apart from like regular Imperium armies? Though there's a number of things. Because they're essentially the Mechanicum armies.
Yeah,
but they're
It's
different.
not too far out of craziness to say that, like, oh, the Imperium has the Imperial Navy and the Imperial Army, and the Cult Mechanicus has the Skitarii.
Yeah.
Like, it's very easy to see the similarities between
Yeah.
them, but they are very different.
Yeah, exactly. Let's start with the creation process.
So, the creation of the Skitarii is a closely kept secret of the Adeptus Mechanicus, but it does not take a genius to see that it requires heavy cybernetic and just real augmentation.
Yeah.
Like, these things don't look human anymore.
No. Well, humanoid.
Okay, sure.
Humanoid.
They
Humanish.
resemble a human shape
Yeah.
a lot of times,
So, some of them.
but sometimes they don't. And that's going to be a lot of it. They get this, but sometimes they don't.
And they're not ad secularis. They're not tech thralls or servitors who are lobotomized humans.
Yeah.
Their process is totally different. We're not chopping off your brain and saying go do this one function.
Yeah.
Think of this less of taking
Although
away.
there is an exemption in there.
Well, it's less taking away and it's more adding on top. So rather than saying I'm going to take out this one part of your brain and now you're a servitor,
Yeah.
it's going to say I'm going to take that piece of your brain, replace it with something else, or
Or
add,
enhance it or something.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions when people think about the Skitarii. They think that they are like human robots essentially.
Yeah.
But they still have their own desires and emotions and
Yeah, they have zeal. They can evolve strategies
Fanaticism.
and fanaticism.
Yeah.
They usually get that getting tempered back in combat. But the thing that
Hey, stop being so fanatical.
yeah, the thing is their brains work to a very high degree, which allows them to do improvisation. Whereas with a robot or a cybernetic, you can't.
They have a level
Yeah,
of
yeah.
autonomy within them.
And the other thing too is their hearts are still human hearts with motivations and feeling. Now, I'm not saying technically like a physical heart. I mean emotion. The fact that their hearts, they can still feel and have wants and desires, but they also numb those and they create a void when they go into combat. That they become brutal. Ruthless.
Yeah.
Although we use the Terminator as an example, but that's a robot. But still, imagine a person who's very sociopathic. You're laughing and you're kind of like, "Hey, this is great. We're hanging around the table. We're doing a podcast," and then he just snaps.
Is that almost more like Universal Soldier without having to die first?
That's a very good example, actually. Yeah.
bunch of fucking nerds.
JCVD is the shit.
I don't know. Oh,
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
I know. Do you know Eric?
No?
So how do you make a Skitarii, Eric?
Well, okay. So we kind of talked about some of the things that they're known for, like their fanaticism, and it's actually very true.
That is step one.
Yeah, if you are not fanatically devoted to the Omnissiah, you aren't considered for the Skitarii. You need to show that you are devoted singularly to the god of the cult.
They can't just program that into you?
They don't want to.
Oh.
They want people who are actually religiously inclined. But the thing is, how many people join religions because they are getting something out of it?
Everyone.
Right, but what I mean...
Is there another reason to join a religion?
Well,
To
let me
learn
say, you
morals
get
and
some...
be a good person.
You don't need religion for that.
Good.
Mark, what have you been doing wrong?
You get people who join up because they want to be a part of something larger, but some people are like, I'm just in it for the paycheck or the social security. So
That's Creed.
Or
That's
the
Creed. He's like,
the food.
Creed's like, I've been a leader of a cult and I've been a follower. You make more money as a leader, but you have more fun as a follower.
so with the Skitarii, many will join up because they actually actually want bionic enhancements because their lives suck. This is still Warhammer 40,000. You're going to live on a planet where it's backbreaking labor. Your lungs are turning black.
If it's a forge world, like the sky is like scorched and you can't see the sky.
There is no sun.
You're breathing in these like gross carcinogens all the time.
So what's your way out? Your way out
To
is
pledge your
to
life.
look at the church and to say,
not get high.
not on the the fumes that they're doing. You could smoke them, but you will die faster.
You will get turbo cancer.
No,
Space cancer.
Techno cancer.
Cyber cancer.
Oh no.
Which is just scrap code.
Cyberpunk 2077. All right. So Skitarii are like, they're still thinking, feeling people, but yeah, those emotions that are fanatical, they may feign them to like say, oh yeah, I definitely am, to move up, or they might actually genuinely believe, because if you're working through sludge and a forge, maybe you actually do want to believe that there's a higher purpose to your life. That's very human, and saying, well, maybe I could be a part of something that can get me out of this.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. A lot of people want to believe in a purpose in what they're doing. So
And
I like wandering aimlessly personally. It's
That's
my
right.
own purpose.
makes sense though.
Yeah, that's all I can imagine.
But so once you've proven your fanaticism to the Omnissiah, and they say like, okay, yes, you can join our Skitarii.
our club.
Yeah. Well,
It's totally
now that
not a
you're-
cult. But
Now that you're a level 1 member,
It's a good cult.
we'll start the changes. And this begins with augmentation of your weak, pale, fleshly human body. And it slowly just extends. So they'll do one augmentation, and then they do another, and then it's just another.
And like most things in the Imperium too, the body that you have, they don't care. They don't care if you're male or female. They take either one.
Oh, yeah, no, it doesn't. By the time you're done, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. They
Right?
become
They've
truly
changed so much
transhumans.
that you're not a human anymore.
Yeah.
So
no, you're a Skitarrii at that point.
exactly, yeah.
So yeah,
You
some
have
of
your
the
family.
some of the things that they will do they'll remove your limbs, replace them with bionics. They remove your eyes, replace them with bionics. Remove your heart, replace it with bionics. Pretty much anything they can replace by machine, they will replace it with bionics, of course.
Yes, they're not removing things for the sake of the removing.
No.
They're replacing things for the sake of increasing and enhancing your ability. But also, these things don't happen all at once. It is like a slow process.
It's almost like going to get tattoos. Once you get one, you
Yeah,
want to get another
exactly.
one.
You can't
Well, I got
stop.
one on my left arm. I'll get one on my right arm.
Yeah, and it's very ritual too. Like doing.
Oh yeah,
it.
it's
Like,
would definitely
it-
be a religious experience.
Exactly. Yeah, you become now closer with the machines when you get a new arm, and yeah,
Well, the first prosthetics are actually seen as a rite of passage.
yeah.
So it's like you're losing your legs, you're losing your arms.
Did you ever read how they remove your limbs?
Tell us.
They grind them down.
Yes, they do.
They don't
What?
cut. They don't
Yep.
cut them off.
Yep, it's done as a rite, as a sort of a throwback to the very first days of Mars, where when you were traveling around, it was done as a convoy or done as a like. It's the reason why they also walk all over the tabletop. It's because this idea of this long walk, this pilgrimage, and that is why they grind them down.
It's so gross.
You know,
So like a metal grinder, like you
be
cut
the
through
worst.
metal, you just put it against the flat of
Sideways,
that and
yep.
push it onto like your limbs.
you know, you had me at robot legs, but
Yeah.
you lost me at brutally grind them off
Don't
slowly.
worry, it only lasts 2 hours while
Per
they do
limb.
it. Per limb, yeah, of course. No, they have to chant the rites in between and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah.
And
You have to
oil
get
you
a
up.
clean. You have to get a clean wheel too.
No, they don't.
Once-
They just pour some sacred oil on it, and it's all good to go.
no one cares about getting sick or cross contamination or anything in the future.
Sickness is a thing of the past in 40K, guys. They've cured all of those things.
Well, whenever someone does get sick, who do they usually run to help them out? Is the Adeptus Mechanicus to say, we can help extend your life, planetary governor.
By putting your brain in this jar. So, but eventually, at some point, like you'll get so many augmentations that more than 50% of your body has become mechanical.
Yep, you'll lose your lungs. You'll lose your. The other important one is the eyes,
Yeah.
because they take off the eyelids because you must be collecting data at all times.
you think there's
the
like
search
little
for
like
knowledge.
drops there that are constantly just putting like.
No, it's mechanical eyes.
No, you have robo eyes too.
Well,
Techno
always
eyes.
though.
I would imagine so.
Fine.
I'm
It would
sure.
be unreasonable to just say that they are coated in a neuroscopic gel.
Oh yes, neuroscopic.
Oh no,
absolutely.
naturally, of course. What was
Well,
I
yeah,
thinking?
yeah, that was in one of your headlines, wasn't it?
yeah, of
And
course.
covers eyes in neuroscopic gel.
Guys, pardon me. I didn't mean to suggest anything ridiculous. I should have known. I apologize.
Yeah, I just
cover-
Googled it. It's totally a thing.
Cover it in KY jelly
Yeah,
for the common man.
just this sheen of
yeah.
like.
Just make sure you don't get like rub-a or anything.
You need these parts though. You need these bionics because if you're going to be going to war and fighting like fighting chaos, or you need to be able to. You're punching above your weight class across the galaxy.
Yeah.
If you're fighting a Tyranid, if you need to withstand an orc's punch, a human
Sure.
rib cage won't do it.
No, it will not.
Titanium, though, will still probably get
It's a
thrown
little
around by an orc.
dented.
It'll get dent.
And you also need to be able to march tirelessly day and night to get to your different combat zones.
Sometimes for weeks,
Yep.
or in some cases even decades.
Yep.
But what we're going to say is when you've achieved more than 50% of your body as augmented, you've passed the crux mechanicus. And this is like I'm assuming a very important thing.
Yeah, it's another rite or whatever that
Yeah.
they undergo.
But like this is
Colyn's worshiping the Omnissiah right now.
As we
he's giving
speak,
praise.
he's giving the sign of the gear.
It's it's like the ultimate, right? Like you can obviously keep going, but this is like the point
Where you're
The point of no return.
You fully
Yeah.
turned over everything.
You've tipped the scale and you
Yeah.
are now more than human.
Yeah.
you are a cyborg.
Well, yeah, like in any sort of fiction, whenever you get to a point where it's like, are you more machine than man? It's very like tropey, but
Yeah.
Sure.
But
and
that-
like how do you measure that?
yeah. Do you still feel like a person? Think of RoboCop. Like, am I still a man? You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah. Oh my god.
that's what this is, and it's very exciting, and I look forward to my ascension.
So even though they have been heavily changed, even at this point, there are instances of them still requiring food and oxygen to survive. So
Or
even
other
like,
basic needs.
yeah,
to,
they,
like,
they've
sleep
still
and-
changed so much,
Yeah.
but
They are more than human, but they're still human.
There are still human
They're
frailties
still
which hold them
alive.
back, sir. The flesh is weak. Sometimes it takes a lot of work to get
They
rid of
still
those.
live in a biological sense, and it requires like every life form requires certain necessities to live, and for some reason, like not all Skitarii have removed those.
Yeah, so it goes back. Sorry, what?
You would think like removing your stomach or like getting robot lungs or heart would be like the first things you would do. So then you wouldn't have to
there's a
eat.
drawback to that though. Like if you do that, you need another way for energy. And if you like now you need batteries.
You run on a shitload of old AA batteries from the dark age of technology.
Is it easier to give yourself a stomach that can literally digest anything, or is it easier to give yourself batteries that might run out in the middle of nowhere?
Well, here's one of the examples that's actually in the fiction for that too, is that the body, we know this from other franchises, cough, cough, The Matrix, and also a headline recently, last November, is implants that are able to take the human body's bioelectric pulses or BTUs and use that to charge technology. Look at a pacemaker. They are making pacemakers now that, like, you put that in, that battery is supposed to be a long, long, long time because you don't want to open a person to take it out. But what they're doing is they're making new ones that the battery is charged by the bioelectric energy in your body, so it never has to come out. That's what we're talking about with this technology of, yes, the very first implants you're getting are valves and sockets into your body to help connect you to different services or different functions, but it's infrastructure. You don't just say, here's a house, here's a window. You have to do the frame first. And so that's when you get to the crux mechanicus. You've built enough of a foundation. You're saying, cool, let's gut this bitch. Throw out the couch. I'm going to get a mechanical couch.
The robo couch.
And that's
A cyber couch.
And thus,
That's a cyber couch.
and thus the cyber recliner was born.
I think too it can kind of go back towards the Magos and how Skitaris are Magos' personal and personalized army. Like each Skitarii regiment is slightly different. So we know too that like tech priests often have like their own quirks. Like even if they become like fully machines, they still have like these weird quirks with them. So
Faults in
Their
the
own
programming.
personalities. almost.
yeah.
Well, it's part of their human soul, their DNA, their way of thinking, and
Yeah.
they carry those on. Like,
So one of them, like before he got his robot body, might have been a glutton. Like might have just loved food. So then he might not replace the stomach on his guys. Like you could
'cause
almost.
he still likes to eat.
He still likes to eat. He still likes that. He still gets pleasure out of that, joy out of that. So maybe all his Skitarii, that's why they don't remove the stomach. for batteries. You know, you can tie some stuff back to
The ego. It's all ego.
Oh, sure.
And that's why you'd find a lot of differences in Skitarrii too, right? Is no two Skitarrii have to be the same. No. You don't have to find the same augmentations everywhere.
We've still talked in previous podcasts, though, that there are some things that are definitively a Skitarii, and that goes a lot to the weaponry that they yield.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of augmentics that they still get. And
Yes, and we're definitely going to talk about what we think we consider essential, and then other things we consider non-essentials.
Cool.
Another thing to note about the creation of a Skitarii is that if there isn't a sufficient population for a tech priest on a forge world or on a planet for them to create their army out of, they will vat grow them.
Yeah, they have that ability, which is pretty wild.
Which is crazy.
You don't hear enough of that in 40K, actually, is that cloning, that vat growing.
Yeah,
Even though it's so good, like it's such a perfect technology that they have, why don't they do it more often?
Especially when you only need to grow like a third of a person to make them into a Skitarrii.
Exactly. As soon as the body's done developing, you're like, well, I don't need legs. Well, no, you do need them, so you can grind them.
So you can grind them off.
There's an amazing piece of art. It's fan art, mind you, but there's a piece where there's two tech priests, and they are growing a vat grown human in this jar, and I'm like, oh, they're growing, and I'm like, that's pretty cute. There's a male and a female. Gender also, you kind of get past that once you get into past the crux mechanicus.
Oh, sure.
But you see, and you're like, oh, they're genetically engineering a kid. That's interesting. And then like one of the captions I saw was, look, our first Skitarii. I'm like, Jesus Christ, this isn't even love of like making a child because they physically their body and biology doesn't. They're making that people to then turn into cyborg warriors.
Yeah.
That's almost like that Blade Runner 2049 where the guy wakes up the clones just to fucking stab them.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. But the whole idea of like vat grown things, like if they're just as good as humans, like why on earth don't we do it more?
Because it takes a lot of time.
It's not as grimdark if you're killing clones. You need to be killing normal ass people.
And also, if you had one human that was really good on the battlefield and you want to clone or replicate those traits or genetically engineer some, saying, well, we don't have the technology to be replacing lungs that easy, let's try to genetically grow some humans that may be more resilient. Because the Mechanicus has the monopoly on technology in the Imperium to
they definitely
develop
do
what they want.
Yeah.
Not every Forge World can. If you're saying Mars, anything, like literally all rules are out for this entire podcast. Any of these examples would be, but then on Mars they can do whatever they want.
Yep, Mars can do literally anything.
There is some examples of cloning in 40K that the Imperium does. And
Deathcore.
No, those are most likely.
Well, that's probably one of
vat-grown.
the better known ones.
No, those are vat grown. I'm pretty sure they're not.
I guess you're talking about something differently than cloning.
Cloning, is a different thing.
Than being vat grown.
Yeah. Well, Abaddon is rumored to be a clone.
Yeah, there's a couple examples of it, and it is possible, but it usually ends horribly.
Yes.
The clone.
Yeah.
They're usually known for being like unlucky.
Yeah,
like,
they
don't have like a soul. It's weird.
It's
kinda.
really cool to
like
think
blanks.
about cloning how it works.
Yeah,
And
they're not quite blanks, but yeah, like you feel uneasy.
Hollow.
Yeah.
We'll coin a new term
They're
for it.
Sure.
missing something.
Yeah.
But there's definitely truth to that, and they seem to like. It's almost like they're born under an unlucky star.
Yeah.
and their life just tragedy follows them, and
They
it's
haven't
kind
been
of cool.
imbued- They have not been imbued with the motive force.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the tech priests can just fucking program around that.
Well, because they are cloning, right?
Yeah.
They're vat
They're
growing.
vat growing.
Yeah.
Different. Okay.
So they're using actually like sperm. Anyways, let's talk about how.
Oh no! You put a bad idea in my mind.
Let's not talk about feelings.
Can I say the bad idea?
feelings.
So servitors are made for one purpose. There's a sperm servitor out there. Somebody has to milk the sperm servitor to
Yeah.
make more vat-grown things. That's fun.
There's another servitor for that.
There's another servitor to.
There's a milking.
There's a servitor
No, I like to
chain.
imagine the entire factory. It's not the guy doing the milking is actually just a regular dude who's just like, this Ford sucks.
Ah, my eye.
All right. What else?
There we go.
What else?
Okay,
Get me off this topic. I want out.
through all these changes that are made to a Skitarii, they ascend. They become more than what they were. They are no longer just a regular human. They've joined, the ranks of the Skitarii, the Legion Skitarii, and they're now a part of the military branch of the Cult Mechanicus. and let's talk about a couple of the specific augmentations that we think are essential for every Skitarii out there.
Yeah. So the first one, and probably the most important one, is the right of pure thought. So this is the right hemisphere of the brain is removed and replaced with a cogitator linked directly to the left hemisphere of the brain. And this basically makes them so they're completely logical.
Yeah, it's like a loop. It feeds back on itself to where...
Because normally, I guess the right side is like artsy and creative.
More creative stuff. And they just cut that piece right out.
Yeah.
It's not needed.
Don't cut out augment because they still require the ability to improvise, to think creatively on the battlefield.
Okay.
Shaming you here, waving my finger. No, I'm sorry.
God damn.
Easy on the techno water though. That's
Expensive.
expensive.
Yeah. So that begins neurocircuitry. That's then going to be running throughout the rest of the brain.
Hey, the brain is open. Might as well stick some circuit boards in there.
Yeah.
We're already in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Super important because it allows you to then start overriding different parts of the person's
So
brain.
hold on, what is neurocircuitry?
So neurocircuitry is where soldiers of the machine god are then able to calculate and think with a combination of their own thoughts, with data that, like, literally data has been fit into this processor, or it's being streamed in through a wireless connection.
Okay, but is it like a piece of hardware?
The best way to explain it is the cogitator is the hard piece of that's the hardware. Neurocircuitry is the process of it's running into different parts of the organic brain.
Okay.
So this is the thing that allows them to rewrite their emotions of discomfort. So if you're in a trench and you're fighting, life sucks. Let's be fair. You don't want to be there. You're covered in sludge. They're able to turn off those feelings of repulsion. They're able to effectively operate more effectively as soldiers because they're not as discomforted by things. One of the best examples is when they load them into a transport. You see a bunch of Imperial Guard. They're all walking in. They get into their drop shit. They lock themselves in. They're ready to go. And then you'll just have a bunch of Skitarii all march from back to chest plate, all marching in with no regard for personal space because they've turned off that ability to feel discomfort. So you're able to fit more bodies into a troop transport. So when it lands, you might have 22.4% more soldiers able to pile out. And that is the efficiency that the tech priests look for.
And so that's done in kind of like combination with this cogitator in the brain.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Magos are important because they can also slave your mind through this. They
just take it over.
Yes.
That's part of the noosphere.
It's still connected to the cogitator because the cogitator is, think of that as like
but
the
that's
CPU.
Yes.
The cogitator is the CPU.
And then there's certain parts of it that are added on. And one of those additions is the noosphere, which links to the
Right.
Magos.
Noosphere is also just a field though that exists. So it's kind of like looking around and everything's augmented reality. It's you're collecting data from the environment around you. Think of it like a Bluetooth wave field that collects data, but it's also kind of it's represented in different ways. It's treated very magical in 40K that it's almost, you're like, whoa, you look at the person over top of their head, you can see a bunch of data circulating. That's because also parts of your brain are calculating data. There's an input-output of different processes. You're maybe even receiving from a ship in orbit that is feeding you data that you need, and then you look around, and I look at Mark, and it's giving me all the heads-up display of how he is a 0.0%
bad person. Don't make friends with. That kind
You've
of
been judged and found wanting.
But this emotion with their neurocircuitry also lets them keep their composure when they're fighting something like a Trigon or a demon engine or these things that are almost like Lovecraftian that you look at it and you lose your mind. There's so many things in the galaxy that you look at, you can't comprehend. It's like trying to describe a color to someone, like trying to describe a color that doesn't exist. So if I was like, Mark, I'm trying to describe your color, and you're like, oh, is it green? I'm like, well, not really. Like, you look at things that your brain can't fathom. So for the Skitarii, what they do is they say, hyperlogical, I just need to know what I need to know of the truths of reality.
Turn off the centers of my brain that deal with fear and instinctual flight or whatever.
Right.
Just turn on cold calculating reason.
Just show me where to shoot kind of thing.
Yeah, but then on the battlefield they have really low morale, so I don't know what I'm talking about.
sometimes tabletop rules don't cross over.
Maybe not.
Directly.
Right.
Moving on.
I didn't realize they had pretty poor leadership.
Yeah. what is it, like a 7
7.
for an alpha?
Oh, for an alpha.
Yep.
Oh,
Regular guys have a 6 then, or
oh my
That's
goodness.
really low.
bunch of dumb fucks? I mean,
Bunch of pussies.
that's sexist. I'm gonna get an email now about that.
I would like you to stand up to the same things that they do and then call them that.
Well, first we got to grind off his limbs and then put him in that
No.
situation.
no.
Oh,
Not at all.
can we though? Just
For fun.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it.
As long as you don't start with the wiener, I'm fine.
No, we're going to end with it.
There is a Skitarii in the books. I can't remember the full designation of his name, but he's just called Striker throughout most of the book. And he goes into battle with these infiltrators, and they're fighting up against orcs. And you think of what it's like. These are humans. These are not like transhuman Astartes.
Space Marines or anything.
They are still people, but what happens is they are able to still fight with no fear. And now we know that for Astartes, it's that they will know no fear. This is again that sort of trans evolution of humanity of saying the Skitarii will feel no fear because we're cutting it out.
But I think one of the distinction is the way it happens.
Absolutely.
Right? Like a Skitarii, it's more of like a brain block.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they just turned that off, whereas the Space Marines are just hard as fuck.
Exactly. Yeah, because the Space Marine, like, they still feel fear, and it's like shown, and like, but it translates into caution.
Yeah.
Less of like cowardice.
Yeah.
Careful, boys. One more sentence about Space Marines, and this will turn into a Space Marine episode. Just warning.
You see the new Primaris?
Whoa,
Oh God, here we go.
Calm down, Mark.
Here we go.
My penis can only get so erect.
Not gonna be.
Just wait. No.
Neurocircuitry also has interfaces.
There we go.
Yeah, it has interfaces that allow them to calibrate weapon trajectories, predict probabilities. This is the cogitator itself. So it allows them to recall enemy data files on weaknesses or fighting styles. So let's say you're fighting a bunch of gene stealer cultists who favor one type of weapon. The first 3 Skitarii, it's actually kind of like the Borg in that way, is that you walk in, you get blown away by a couple weapons. The next group of Skitarii are going to have all of that data because all their heads-up
Doomsday.
displays fed back. Yeah, Doomsday. Pretty much any fictional character that hyper adapts.
Tyranids.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got more. Who's
Yeah.
more? Where's more?
My wife.
That's right.
Hyper
The
adaptive.
Taskmaster
She has
Put
to
up
deal,
with-
from
put up
like
with your
Marvel or
shit.
she has
DC
to deal with
Comics.
a lot. She adapts.
So those are like very, like, the brain is very essential. Anything that changes in the brain is very important for a Skitarii. But there are also like a lot of other augmentations that we can find that probably will happen, but are they truly necessary to be a Skitarii? I think there's a lot of room for interpretation.
Yeah, like
on these.
like your heart.
Sure. Or like the limbs. Like you were saying on Mars, all their legs are turned into bionic legs.
Yep, as
But
they
if you're
should.
on a different one, like Styges or whatever, or do your legs have to go?
They might be tentacles. But
But they also might just not be gone.
Like, aren't most Forge worlds modeled after Mars?
Every Forge world is modeled
modeled-
after Mars.
So
At the very least, in its hierarchy.
don't they like have the same layout in their factoriums and stuff too, or not so
There's
much
that sort of Mars is the most efficient of the Forge world, so we will follow its model. So they will it'd be kind of entertaining. It's like walking into a Starbucks, and every Starbucks has the same layout, and you're like, from one Forge world to another Forge world, it's always the exact same layout.
So would some of the culture of Mars have carried over to other places, or would that just depend on the Magos?
It carried over, but what happened was after the
But there's thousands of years when they're growing by themselves.
yes, when they got cut off by warp storms, that's when the divergence began. So you'd have a Forge world like Metallica that became obsessed with sterilization, which the entire planet is now coated in metal because they didn't want anything organic on it. Or you might get
That's hardcore.
Or you might get Agrippina,
40K.
which is
Right.
like
And so what I'm saying
servitor-based.
is, are the Skitarii on Metallica going to be the same as the ones on Mars?
They're going to have the exact same framework as a skeleton army, but they will have different divergences, same as a Space Marine would. Where you're saying your
Exactly.
combat doctrine is going to be slightly different.
Yes. So and these are like the certain things that aren't, well, we don't see as essential as like the brain changes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a lot on augmentation now. Let's go to another thing we want to talk about, though, is their war gear. So the war gear of the Skitarii is on average higher than what you'd find in an Imperial Guard regiment, which just makes sense.
Yeah. Sure, you could find an Imperial Guard regiment who actually wears power armor and has bolters, but that's
On average.
On average, you definitely
Nice flak jacket, you know.
Yeah, on average, yeah.
Nice flashlight.
But one thing that almost all Skitarii have is the Skitarii warplate, and this is designed to be worn for several years at a time, which is it's always fun.
It's gross. It's too long.
It's the same vest for 10 years.
I'm working on that.
It's a really
In
nice
a,
vest.
In a war
It's a
zone.
really nice vest.
My Magos made it for me specifically.
Crochet. He's got 6 arms. He can just keep knitting it for you.
Yeah, so that's one. It also can absorb moisture from the wearer and recycle it, which is always nice. And it also can turn this moisture into like a gel on the inside of the armor that can like help like brace for impact. So if they got shot by a shell, like it kind of absorbs that.
Like a shock absorbing
yeah.
gel.
Also,
Yeah.
if they got wounded, like if someone shot through their abdomen, that gel could actually be pressurized in there. It's kind of like those emergency like spray glues,
med
kits.
the med kits that can spray glue and fill a wound.
That's always fun.
What's some other war gear that is pretty cool, Colin?
Well, they have digital weapons, conversion fields, refractor fields, those higher tech ways of defending themselves. But one of the best ones is their blessed raiments, their clothing.
Okay.
So what that is there's two. There's the cloak. So what the cloak is it's both a symbol of their devotion to the Omnissiah, but it's also a piece of fabric that is filled with different sensor arrays, and there's different neural fabrics inside that allow it to absorb radiation that might be harmful to the person. And then when they get back, they take that off. They are able to like throw it in the rinse and then put that on. What it is also is, I don't know if you've ever tried this. It's a fun trick. If you
Probably not.
If you have your car starter or you have your key fob and you want to like start your car and it's not locking or it's not unlocking from a while away, what you do is you put it to your chin and you hold your arm up and you'll get an extra 10 feet out of it.
Yeah, then you cancel your brain though. So
Yeah,
there's-
that sounds
then
like
you can't have kids anymore.
And then you taste colors you can't describe.
that sounds like you get techno brain cancer.
What it is though is it's a conductor. You're turning yourself into a signal conductor. The cloaks are that. It allows them to receive the signals that they're getting from their Magos in orbit easier.
So these are a lot fancier than just the regular ass robes it looks like the models have.
Yeah. So in that robe, if you take off the layer of fabric, you'll actually find typically some sort of look at. I'm trying to think of an example, but like you think of like adamantium, or you think of any superhero movie where the person is like, "I have invented the suit." You think of those fabrics that are still metals.
Like a wearable technology kind of thing.
Yes. But then it has this very 40K cult gothic look because it's still a robe.
So your modeling of all your robes now
Yes.
makes way more sense after seeing this, after reading this. And like the necessity and
The
how
obsession.
the obsession, that's a good word for it, that you have with putting robes on your models. Just now I understand so much better.
So for all of my models, if like I've been actually putting pictures of them online on my Instagram and at Forge of Mars. What happens
Jordan,
is
cancel that out.
Shameless plug.
Shameless.
all of these characters have robes because it allows them to use conductors to connect better to the noosphere or to data uplinks or to broad spectrum data tethers or all of these other tools that the Skitarii have
those are
for
words.
transferring data. They are also models.
So I have a question for you. Their eyes are collecting data.
Yes.
Their helmets are collecting data.
Yes.
Their robes are collecting data.
Yeah.
Their ears are collecting data. Their guns, their armor, their warplate, everything is collecting data.
Yes.
But there's no way they can handle all that. Mm-hmm. So what happens?
So what they do is they are transferring that back to a tech priest who is waiting in orbit, or there are different adepts of the cult Mechanicus who are receiving that information. This is a branch of the Mechanicus called the Logi or Logi or what they do is their whole purpose in life is to receive data and catalog it. You think of this, if you're looking at the Imperium side, you would have a bunch of people on Holy Terra who have a bunch of books and they're just cataloging everything. Think of this with data stacks and server farms, and the Mechanicus are just collecting all of this data and putting it into organization. The problem is it's still the Mechanicus, so you will sometimes lose stuff. You know, you got a very important statistic about an orc war boss. That's essential for the next army going up against him, but then maybe that add up and that ship got blown up, that data is lost. So it couldn't be transferred back. And all of this is centralized at Holy Mars.
So specifically though in a battlefield, like in the middle of a battle, what is the purpose of all this data collection of a single Skitarii?
It's because this fulfills the pursuit of knowledge, which is the cult Mechanicus' guiding presence. You think a lot of this, like the Skitarii are like big into becoming cyborgs, but the Adeptus Mechanicus is all about collecting knowledge and that pursuit of understanding of the known galaxy.
And if they know how many rocks are on that battlefield, somebody in the Mechanicum is getting off to it.
They will find a use for that information too.
That's the thing, is like, how can I use this in relation to some sort of advantage?
Yeah. And that's kind of more what I'm looking for, is that this tech priest that might not be on the battlefield, might be off planet, might be in a different continent, might be in a different city, is getting a real-time uplink to this battle. He's getting data inputs from, 30 different Skitarii all on different points of the battlefield who are all collecting data. He's digesting it because they don't have the capacity to do it. And then he's sending out orders in the battlefield that are also just going real-time back. And so his ability to process information and codify it and then create scenarios out of it is way better than what a regular Skitarii could do. And that's one of the real important reasons that they can link so well up with their tech priest.
Yeah.
And for the Skitarii on the battlefield, though, that's not what it feels like.
Sure. No, it doesn't, of course.
No.
It's because you're collecting that data, you're sending it back. When that data is coming back to you, it's
not data, like orders.
Orders, like a Doctrina Imperative, which is their version for orders. It feels like a flash of insight, or it could be the tech priest specifically speaking to you, or it could be so overpowering it can feel like the religious word of the Omnissiah. One of those three. People react in different ways, or tech priests are able to control which one they feel.
Which is really cool. Like it really fits the flavor of a fanatical warrior who truly feels like they're hearing from their god. In the heat of battle,
especially when you can just beam in words from God right into their head.
Exactly. And it's a true beam, right? Like,
and the Magi to the Skitarii are speaking the word of God. They are the ones interpreting the way of the universe and bequeathing that information to them. But Doctrina Imperatives are carried out with authorizations, so it's not just saying I command you to do this, and you're like, all right, I'll go do my orders. It's I command you, capital C, command you to do this.
It's like
the Omnissiah wills it.
Like it's like a
stuff.
CMD.
And sometimes they will say do this. Other times they will force them into action that they can't control themselves. An example of this is there's one part of one of the books where a Skitarii is standing on a bridge, and there's a tech priest who's quite disgruntled with the tech priest who actually owns the Skitarii, and he forces his soldier to look into the gaze of the warp. And this Skitarii can't look away because he's received this empathic you will look. He wants to tear his eyes away and he can't, because the tech priest is effectively he's taking out his anger on the other tech priest on this poor Skitarii by forcing him to look into the warp, which just looking at it
gives you some bunk data.
10101 turns to 101B8 and you're like, that's what happened. Glitch.
Yeah, and I think that's why people think that they're like mindless robots, is because that can happen.
They're not robots, they're puppets.
Yeah.
That's a very good analogy, is the idea that they're puppets with a lot of string that can be roped in when needed.
Yeah.
They can get to tighten that leash pretty quick.
Yeah. That's fun.
Any other kind of war gear that you want to go over, Colin?
We could talk about weapons.
We can talk about weapons, but we're also going to talk about specific Skitarii, and we can talk about individual weapons there, like the rad weapons and stuff like that, and the transonic stuff. So, I guess if there's nothing else, let's go into organization.
Can I take this brief lull in the action here? I actually, me and some of the guys kind of pooled some of our resources.
Oh, boy.
And
He's
we
reaching into his pocket.
and we came out with something for you here, Mark.
Oh, from Mark specifically.
For Mark specifically.
Oh, God, it's
What
a
is it?
Primaris Marine.
You got to describe it, Marcus.
Describe to the listeners what you are seeing, please.
No, never shall such heresy reach my
right.
lips.
Okay.
It's fucked. I know. At first, you're like, "Oh, it's a Primaris." Oh, there's a
This
female
is-
head on there.
So the name is written on the base, and it is called Marcanus because you can add anus pretty much to any name, and it
make it
becomes
bet-
magical.
It becomes magical.
That's right.
But then you slap a female head on a
No,
Space Marine.
it's a Primaris Marine. Yes, look at that sweet armor. Got a nice bolt rifle on. It's got a purity seal on
even-
the right shoulder pad.
We even asked Mark what his favorite chapter of Marines was.
Raptors, sure.
So it was.
sure,
So I
sure.
painted it like the Raptors to make sure he wouldn't throw it across the wall as fast.
Okay, then you knew he'd actually put it in his hands, and then as you slowly move up, there's a beautifully detailed, wonderfully
Almost
painted.
sexy. I'm almost enjoying the female part. Like if I take half the model and cover
No.
it from the neck down,
Here's-
I like it, and from the head up, I like
Do you
it.
know what would be the perfect irony, Mark?
Huh?
For you to do a female Space Marine army. That would be like the
I don't think my fragile psyche could take it.
You've come
Perfect irony.
full circle, Mark.
Oh my goodness. Anyways, that's that's an awesome gift. Oh, that's great. Anyways, let's get back into Skitarii.
You painted this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
We'll share a photo of that online on our page. For
I'll
sure.
leave that here to bug me. Marcanus.
Let's talk about the organization
Holy
of
shit.
I'll give you
Skitarrii
this too.
forces.
No, that will tempt me to. I appreciate that, but no.
That was the
The
head.
female head
The
is.
real head. No,
Yeah,
you got to leave the female head on. That's great.
I know.
I
awesome.
had to see what it would look like in the camo with the full model, so I did do the helmet. But yeah, I'll just keep that.
Oh man, I love it. Oh, I don't love it. I love the thought of it. I love intentionally pissing people off, and you did it. You're never getting invited back. Congratulations, you did it.
Well, we were actually worried about me getting a ride back, so it was a good thing I drove here myself.
Oh man. Okay.
Okay.
It's out of my system.
That's okay. It was a good
Holy
distraction.
moly.
Let's talk about Skitarii Legion organization. So there's a pretty clear kind of flow of
very
organization. Yeah, and it's very easy to understand too. So we're going to start with how a legion works. So a legion, which is a legion Skitarii, which is also sometimes called a divisio Skitarii, is made out of macroclades. And there can be any number of macroclades within a legion, and it just depends on how
Wealthy.
how
prominent.
wealthy, exactly how many Skitarii the Magos is,
Yeah.
making or whatever.
Yeah. And then each macroclade consists of 4 war cohorts, which are sometimes called regiments.
Yeah. So, and then each cohort or regiment is made up of 3 battle maniples. So this means that each macroclade, which is the biggest grouping possible in a legion, is made up of 12 maniples, which is a sacred number to the AdMech. I mean, just like how their cog has 12 cogs?
Teeth, I think.
Teeth, yeah.
Yeah. Gears have teeth, yes.
Yeah. So it has 12 teeth. So the macroclade has 12 maniples. And the first macroclade, sometimes called the prima macroclade or the macroclade primus, will traditionally garrison the Titan Legion and or the Ordinatus engine of that Forge World.
That's a good time.
That's a very... you got some good power on that.
Oh, yeah.
So on tabletop, what would you typically see? Like if I'm a Tau player, when I play with cadres. So what of this would you be
You're going to see
playing?
Maniples.
Battle maniples is what you would see on the tabletop.
Because maniples are made up of different units.
Yeah.
So if your guys bringing 3 rangers, 3 infiltrators, and a doom crawler, that's a maniple.
That's
right
a maniple.
there.
Okay.
Right. So you're going to see one single maniple probably in like a 1500 point.
Maybe 2 if they're really going for some.
Maybe 2 if they're
but-
if they're really minimizing their units.
Sure.
So it's just maniples are made out of smaller groups of units then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like individual unit types combine together to make a maniple. And the maniples, like, they can be any kind of unit that you'd like.
Yeah, you could have like
You could have a maniple specifically designed for breaching. So they're going to have heavy infantry and big tanks.
Yeah.
Right? Or you can have like a shock troop maniple that's going to have rust stalkers and infiltrators and some rangers.
Yeah.
Right? So that all just depends on, what their purpose is.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool.
But it's nice to see a very clear representation of how they make it, because especially for people who want to create, like, I'm going to create a Forge world, like, you'd need a lot. But then you can divide everything, and they have very clear markings for, what the first macroclade is, and then what the first cohort is. And then
they got some pretty cool symbols going on.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they're
they
very
do.
clear,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah.
Okay, but other than that, the organization is very easy.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Yeah.
So let's...
Easy peasy.
Yeah, it's really simple. Let's go right into the types of Skitarii and their subsequent battlefield roles. And then in this column, we'll also talk about some specific war gear that these guys will wield.
Sure. So types of Skitarii. That's Mark just passed the Primaris across the table.
Female primaries.
Attaboy.
My God.
All right.
You have no idea what level of heresy I operate at.
Do you want to lead us through, Eric? And I'll pepper in some great book stuff too.
So for the types of Skitarii, we decided to list them from like the highest ranking level of Skitarii in a legion to the lowest, or what we perceive to be the lowest. So the highest one is a master of Skitarii. So this guy is going to lead a cohort, or also known as a regiment. They have undergone years of service before assuming this role, and they possess neural networks to issue orders without the need for speech. This can also override the individual will of their cohort. So it's going to function on a very similar level to what a tech priest does, without them actually being a tech priest.
Yeah.
Now, these sometimes get mixed up in the lore that they're a Skitarii primus. Because a master of Skitarii, in the book, the Mechanicus themselves will refer to them as Skitarii primus, which is just one step above the next one, which is a Skitarii alpha. So the primus is usually the person at the right hand of the tech priest.
So are there multiple primuses in a legion? Okay, that's the difference, because there will be multiple masters.
Yes, yeah. And so the masters may have different cranial implants that they're using to speak with their Skitarii partners. More often in the book, though, just because of the drama of it, you'll have a tech priest speaking directly to a Skitarii on the ground, because it allows you to break all of those barriers of hierarchy when the tech priest needs to, of being like, what's going on at that forge? Zoom right into my puppet and take a look around. You can't really do that saying there's a commissar in orbit and then he's like trying to radio down to gunman number 48.
Right, yes.
Because the radio's down. So it allows you to
Didn't even give him a radio,
No,
probably.
but yeah, it allows you to do different sorts of storytelling.
Yeah. That's cool.
So yeah, they're the leaders in the cohorts or regiments. Did you mention the holy number of 12 being involved in the macroclade?
Yes,
We
we
did.
did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Of course.
12 teeth on the cog.
12 cogs on the cog.
12
That's
cogs
what
on
we
each
12
decided.
cogs on the cog, 12 teeth on the teeth.
Yeah.
All right.
Those hunting gear.
So underneath Master of Skitarii, you have, which Colin already mentioned, Skitarii alphas. And these have all passed the Crux Mechanicus.
That 50%.
Yeah, so they have more than 50%, and they've been in service as well for many years. Their human components have often been reduced to as little as their brain, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But the difference in these alphas and the Masters of Skitarii is that these alphas are still a part of their individual unit.
Yeah, and so these are the ones you see on tabletop. They have the running along the top of their helmet. They'll have a demicog, which is that vein or crenellation, like the thing that's just like a bunch of spikes on the top of the helmet. Looks like a Roman crest.
Yeah.
But what that actually is, that's a receptor-threaded
yeah.
receiver that allows them to collect information and data. So it's another fin for receiving the reception of like orbital auspex or Vox relays or the Noospheric link.
Yeah.
Noosphere is very, very big for them and their connection to their tech priest. But again, it's data transference.
Yeah, and so alphas can be, you can have Skitarii Vanguard Alpha, Skitarii Ranger Alpha, Infiltrator Alpha. So even though they are alphas, they're still a part of their unit.
And they'll have some form of relay connector that you look at them all, you're like, that's a bigger antenna.
Yeah. There's just, it's a very clear level of hierarchy from everyone up.
Yep.
So after the alpha, we have Praetorians. And this is the one thing where Colin was saying that, Skitarii aren't servitors. They exist beyond that level of just being human brain soup, right? Which
This is where he
servitor.
is.
And this is
is
where
where he's wrong?
Lexicanum seems to disagree with you, is that they are described as servitors.
These Praetorians are.
Yes.
I think of Praetorians actually as closer to ogrins.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
Some
They're
are,
created
yeah.
from
So are they
Ogrins.
just like a battlefield servitor then, kind of?
Yeah, they're an elite, heavily armed and armored servitor. And they're used often to like guard temples or shrines or even tech priests.
Just
and,
kind of important places or
yeah.
high
Well,
value targets?
There
Yeah.
aren't tabletop models for this, right?
No, but they even in the Horus Heresy book, there's a Praetorian, and they have like 4 infiltrator legs, and they are not an idiot. So the use of the word Praetorian has been kind of mixed up a little bit. I think really what it's supposed to be referring to is they are a hyper enhanced elite, very strong. You
Yeah.
can't make a whole army of these, but what you might have is you might have the equivalent of what is this is the Skitarii equivalent of a knight or a custode, like something that's just way more.
Did you just
advanced.
compare these to Grey Knights?
In terms of like the technical augmentation they would have to a standard space
yeah,
marine?
like a regular Marine to a Grey Knight compared to like a regular Skitarii to one of these Praetorians.
Yes.
where do Primaris fit on this range?
They don't.
Like at the very top on the pedestal that they so rightly
above custodes.
yes.
Well,
at the pedestal they have so rightly deserved in the lore mark.
At the rate Games Workshop is going, yeah.
I would love to see these though.
So the
yeah, for
Praetorians, like when I'm reading them online, I get a very different view than what you share.
So
right here.
that's easy enough to just chalk up to, once again, different.
Which author is writing?
also,
Well, I was going to say
timeline?
in universe, which
Yeah.
Magos is in control of them.
Is it 30K
Sure.
or is it 40K? Because in 40, the only reference I've seen in 40K is that they have gear tracks and multiple legs, and they're these like walking death treads. In 30K, there's a reference, and it's almost like a noble hyper elite warrior with like a staff that's like a transuranic blade that's vibrating, and you're like
That just sounds like an infiltrator, though.
different. I
Because
can
it's made out of an Ogren.
Yeah, it's still again this very beefy because they've gone through a lot more of like the biogenetic upgrading than a regular
Yeah.
Skitarii would.
Well, that makes sense because what Lexicanum would say is that they're either created out of an Ogren or vat-grown flesh, and vat-grown is going to be obviously genetically created.
These are your heavy platform carriers.
It'd be cool
So-
to
so-
see a representation of them on the table, though.
I was gonna say they're not on the table though.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it'd be nice to get some clarification, but don't email Games Workshop because they won't get back to you.
They'll get back to you. They just won't give you an answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you speaking from experience, Mark? Is there a story behind that?
Eric just emailed them asking a question, a very in-depth rule question. And what'd they say back to you?
He said, "Oh, did you read the rule? Read the rule." And I was like, "Oh, thanks, Games Workshop.
Oh,
you're the best."
What do you mean?
It's funny because when
I
I
got
emailed them
Battle
about
Scribe.
like Mechanicus or lore questions, they just open with "Hi, Colyn."
They know you personally. No, yeah, it was. I wish
They
I just-
responded,
yeah,
at least.
they responded. Yes, but it,
It was
was
an
like
automated response. They didn't do shit.
it was an automatic response. It's like step 1, read the rule. Step 2, go upstream. Step 3, follow the rule. Step 4, roll a dice.
Oh, God.
Yeah, no. I didn't get the answer I wanted, but I don't expect them to reply to everyone. Anyways, let's continue on. After the Praetorians, we have the Skitarii Vanguard. So this is actually the most commonly seen unit of Skitarii. Like when you think of Skitarii infantry, this is probably what you're imagining.
One of two.
One of two, that or Rangers. Right. So
I like to think these guys are more prominent, though.
that is what you like to think.
I like to think a lot
That
of things.
is
But
what you
that
like to
doesn't mean
think.
you're always right, though, Mark.
I'm just saying.
had
This is what I like to think.
We had a conversation about that.
They're
before the
pretty
episode.
equally represented in the artwork throughout the Codex.
Honestly, I can't tell them apart because I don't know what their individual guns look like.
So Vanguard have a Prussian helmet, like just it's a big metal helmet.
Silhouette.
Rangers have a hood. That's the major difference between the two.
I don't get it.
Okay,
Obvious,
so
obvious differences here, man.
metal helmet,
Look,
hood.
okay, yeah, like this.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then I
Mark's
put
wearing
on
a
my
hoodie
hood.
down.
Yeah.
Now the
Yeah,
hoodie's
there we
up.
go.
You're still
so that's
Mark
the
down,
difference.
but you're
hoodie
still
up.
Mark. That's what I don't understand. You're just hood Mark or no hood Mark.
So
Steve?
Skitarii.
Yeah.
Cyber Steve.
Oh my god.
So the weapons. So a Skitarii Vanguard is equipped with a radium carbine. You're effectively using weaponized radiation pellets. It's a radiation assault rifle.
It's a death ray.
Yeah, this has got to be one of their most terrifying class of weapons. in my
it's
opinion.
wild. When I first read them, I'm like, how's that going to kill someone quickly? Because you think of radiation as this slow, infectious thing, and it's like, no. They've hyper weaponized it to the fact that it hits you, and it's like a poison.
Yeah, it's more like a laser, if anything.
I equate it a little bit to like the Dark Eldar poisons. Is that this thing is going to hit you, and it's just going to ravage through your body pretty damn quick.
Isn't the radiation on these guns so wild that the guys using it get kind of buggered up from it too?
That is true. There's a couple points where they're getting ready for landing, and they take off their helmets, and like their teeth are all falling out. They have no hair. Their bodies are just like decaying, and many of them, because they've had that part of their body about discomfort turned off, they're like, all right,
it is what it is. I can still function.
Yeah.
Do you think becoming a Skitarii is a choice sometimes? Like, obviously there's fat grown and they wouldn't have a choice, but if you chose to become a Skitarii because you're like super fanatical, would you be able to choose to become what you want to do?
I'll use the example of Stroika because he's one of the most noble Skitarii in the fiction. Is that he worked on a forge, and he wanted to do something else other than working on that forge. He's never implied to be hyper religious from that experience, but he saw it as a way of getting beyond.
Sure.
When he moves up in rank, he moves into a Skitarii position, and then he becomes a Skitarii Alpha and a Skitarii Primus.
Yeah.
Usually if you're getting augmentics to become something really hyper elite, it's not because you want to. It's because your tech priest has said, I have a very specific combat purpose that I need fulfilled.
Yeah. And that's what I would assume.
And your name just happened to be on the top of the pile.
Yeah.
You're the new Primus. Good job, Mark.
Right place, right time. You're the only one who survived your entire unit being wiped out, so you're getting a bit of an upgrade. Skitarii Vanguard are... I love the weapon. They've got the little radiation carbines that are just glowing with they look very ill. I'm not talking like Nurgle sick, but like, holding that and you're going to put it down and be like, I don't feel so good, you guys.
You won't be having kids after you touch this rifle.
And there's also a specific reason why whenever they are boarded onto a Skitarii, a Mechanicus or even an Imperial ship, they load them on at separate times than the rest of the Imperial Guard.
That makes sense.
Yeah, because even just being around them, it's so bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the guard has two important jobs: to fight and die for the Emperor and make more guardsmen.
And if you're standing right next to what is effectively a walking Chernobyl, you're not going to be able to do the second one very well at all.
No.
So,
and you're not going to be able to do the first one at some point.
No, that's when you just start an abhuman regiment, guard regiment.
That's a good way for the commissar to just shoot you.
Oh,
you don't want to become an abhuman.
So Vanguard are known because of this to have a very short lifespan.
Yep, radiation ravages them quickly.
And they are constantly being pulled back from the front line for fixes.
Yeah, you've been ravaged. Let's give you some new organs.
Yeah.
Or just general repurposing, like, we need some more servitors.
Really, that is the end of the lifespan of a broken Skitarii. Is either they've been so damaged, but they can use the parts to become a servitor, or they can become Rothstalkers and infiltrators, which we'll talk about later.
Yeah. But before we get into those, let's talk about Rangers.
Yes.
So they are equipped with galvanic rifles and are used for more long-range combat. They are relentless infantry that excel at hunting and killing. So where the Vanguard, they have a limited lifespan. These guys, they don't have that limited lifespan. They're essentially almost immortal. They're follow you for decades if they want. Like, they just walk across an entire continent following you.
Yeah, and they just won't give a fuck. They'll just slowly walk after you, and you go to one city and they'll raise it, and if you run away again, they'll just follow your ass again.
Exactly.
They will get you.
You've got that Mechanicus sense of purpose. I need something that gets in there really fast and dies quick and very short term, like very short term.
Yeah.
Or I need something that's very long term.
Yeah.
The Mechanicus aren't saying, well, as an army, they're not a jack of all trades. It's give me the exact specialized thing I need, and it is like a surgical knife.
Yeah, efficiency is. Yep. They're all about efficiency. Mm-hmm. Cool. Any other? What's a galvanic rifle? Anything special?
So galvanic, think of them as like high impact rounds, kind of like similar to a bolter, but then you just wave your fingers and you say, well, there's some dark age of technology, there's some hyper gravity based.
Yeah, that's what I think when I think of like galvanic, like either gravity or like using magnets or like those type of forces.
Magnets messing stuff up even in the 41st millennium.
That's true, though. They do.
Shooting rare earth magnets.
Oh, no, not shoot. But like,
Oh, you can't have that near the Skitarrii. It'll fuck them up.
Hey, Skitarii, 41 RAM. How are you? 8R. Oh no, I put the galvanic rifle right next to his head during loading.
That's
So
just
you take it away, and he's got like a red tint in his left eye that just won't go away.
how do you kill Skitarii? You just bring a big magnet.
Oh, not wrong.
tinfoil also works.
Foil hat. Well, that's so they can't read your thoughts.
Yeah,
How do
or
you
it gets
free
into the
yourself
sphere.
from the tech priest? You wear a tinfoil,
Tinfoil hat.
That's how you intercept their signals.
So let's talk about Sicarian infiltrators and Sicarian rust stalkers. Colin kind of mentioned it, but if you were a Skitarii vanguard or ranger and your body is so damaged that they can't put it back to being what you were, you've got two options. One is to become a servitor and fulfill your life doing something else, menial probably.
What's left of your life?
Yeah. Or they place you to become an infiltrator or a rust stalker.
Yeah, and what's crazy about these guys? So when the requirement is you have to have a torso, limb stumps, and a head. But what's crazy is when they replace the bionics with these guys, like they'll give them like goat legs. Where normally bionics in the Imperium is very much like based off a human form, where these ones get more crazy, like 4 elbowed arms. You know, like it gets way more.
It's like General Grievous.
Exactly, it gets way more kind of just efficiency as opposed to representing a human form.
And we talked a little bit about that with biomimicry of the Mechanicus taking on the foundations of not like the chaos, like crazy scorpions and stuff like that, but they're looking at forms of distant ancient human past. Walking means a lot to the Mechanicus because of their convoys that existed on Mars. Goats, there's also kind of this translation to like the old pilgrimages that existed on ancient Earth, you know. And the thing is, if you look at records in the Paralympics now, people who have prosthetics are actually some of them I don't have the statistic for, but they're pushing numbers that you remember when they invented those swimsuits that allowed people to swim faster than Olympic athletes just because of like the fabrics in them. It's the same. It's because they use like shark skin and they're using different. You're effectively
Like, you're not going to
nature's
be
technology.
no Michael Phelps there, Mark, but you'll be close.
Yeah.
You might get a bronze or something.
So do the same thing with the legs. Use prosthetics that are going to allow you to go beyond what a human would be able to do, and you get the infiltrators. But it's a brain, it's like a spine stem and a torso.
It still thinks like us.
It
probably.
is us, yeah. But
Mostly.
they are grim though. The specifically the rust stalkers. But infiltrators are they have a lot more of the technical upgrades. So what they'll do is they're used as a shock troop. By the Mechanicus, they'll jump in behind enemy lines. They have scramblers that effectively are just like sending out a signal of white noise. So you're like, I'm having troubles focusing. Why does my head hurt? Why are my ears bleeding? Why is my nose bleeding? I can't think straight. And then
Why can't I feel my everything? And then your head's on the ground.
they'll do that. They carry with them taser goads or different power blades, flechette blasters, and they'll also, as they run in and they're jumping around, deep striking, their head can spin around 360 degrees.
Is it that their head can spin 360 degrees?
Think of it like R2D2 has how that dome on top.
Okay.
It's the sensors connected to that.
Yeah, I didn't
I
know
thought
if-
they could just.
I thought it was
actually
more
be-
like looked like.
Yeah, I thought there was just
wasn't sure-
optical inputs everywhere around them.
I
No,
wasn't
so-
sure if it was like R2 and just his head had to turn, or if it was like IG-88 and it was just had sensors all around.
So for people that don't understand Star Wars, I'm sorry, go watch Star Wars. But what it is, it's effectively that you're wearing a trash can up to what is your mouth or your chin. And the trash can has a sensor on the front and it can spin around, but your neck and your jaw are still
It's your helmet that's doing the spinning and not so much your head like on the poltergeist.
Yeah, you're not poltergeist. You're not like, ah!
The exorcism.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, those infiltrators are more shock troops.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, like go
Disorienting,
disrupt,
yeah.
disorient,
Yep.
make a diversion so the rest of us can get into position.
Yep.
Now, Sicarian rust stalkers are the other route that a severely injured Skitarii can take, and they are more used as assassins.
Yep, they sneak into places. They will go under the cover of darkness. They use transonic weapons. They hum, they vibrate. They can cut through a molecule. They can,
Please.
Monomolecular.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't talk to me
blades.
about molecular weaponry, okay?
so
I will flay you molecule by molecule.
I
and
like my
they're very
molecules.
fast, and they are kind of that lightning fast leaping goat monster cybernetic human.
Excellent.
They are often called shivs,
What are?
rustsuckers.
Okay.
Because they have like blades
Short
that also are
trans
transonic, and they stab their opponents, enemies, so quickly and so many times that it just looks like a blur. Apparently,
It's like from Futurama, the one robot. It's like that guy.
yeah.
One weapon we forgot to mention just on transonic, because you've got the blade, is also the transuranic arquebus, which
Okay.
is carried by the Rangers, and that's their long range sniper weapon.
Is that the one where it's two models on the single base?
Well, it's one model. It's got like a stand on the end of the rifle.
On the oval base?
Yeah.
I think it is.
And so what it is, it's that thing is that they're firing a rifle penetration round that vibrates. And that's what the weapon is, and that's why it does the damage it does.
My girlfriend will like the sound of that.
Penetrating bullet.
Penetrating vibrators.
Bullet.
What else you got? What else you got?
So we have another thing that I actually had never heard of until I started to do research for this, and I have no idea how to say this. So, hispacists, 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 hispacists.
Hispacists?
How do you say it, Colin?
Hispacis.
Oh, of course.
Hispacists.
You need to
With a heavy lisp.
Hithpithith.
They're
So let's
effectively,
talk about the Hithpithith.
they're effectively guardsmen level with las guns.
Yeah.
That like they are definitely compared to that, but just because they are Skitarii, they are going to have some kind of augmentation.
Yeah.
They probably would be better in the lore than your average guardsman.
They
with
are.
all their modifications and
At the very least, they're said to have emotional suppression surgery, so they will just react more rationally and coolly than a regular guard.
Okay, so these are more human than
Yeah,
the rest
yeah.
of the Skitarii?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're the
So-
more human side of the cyborg, whereas the Skitarii is the more cyborg part of the equation.
Yeah, like you could just see these guys as like a garrison force, like
Of-
just stand here, hold this ground until like, we come and claim the artifact. Like they don't need to be these crazy things. Like
No, they're just kind of fucking...
Yeah.
They're like
Just-
the mall cops.
yeah, exactly.
But the
you
tech
know?
priest still needs the ability to control them, and whatever data they are receiving, he
Yeah.
still needs the ability to see it.
Yeah.
So they are still connected.
Yeah.
Hispastis.
No, there's no T in
The
there.
Hispacists.
There is a T.
Well, not where you put it.
Hispastis.
It's such a weird word, eh?
Spell it out.
Just add two I's to the end.
Hispastis.
Hispacity.
Hispacitize?
Hispaciti. That is the naming convention, because the next one you get are the Sagittarii.
Yes. And so the next three that we listed, they are less infantry. So these the Sagittarii or Sagittarius, a centaur. These are the heavy weapons operatives. It's the
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius?
The zodiac sign.
Zodiac sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
oh, sure.
Mark,
So these are heavy weapons
This is
operatives.
a Christian
that,
home. No Zodiac.
None of that Zodiac
that
bullshit
pagan
here.
Zodiac.
guys, I already brushed this area with sage.
You hear Mark's coming down the stairs? Mark's mom coming down the stairs?
Mom, get out.
We did the sage scrub.
Right. So Sagittarii are heavy weapons guys, but they are separate from heavy weapons in the Hispacists units.
Yeah,
so
or
they
even
can-
like regular Skitarii have heavy weapons in
Yeah.
them. Like these are different.
They are not represented on the tabletop.
No, they are not. So, and like even on like the online, it's tough to find anything beyond this tiny little line on them.
It's because they got folded into what is the next one.
the Ballisteria.
So the Ballisteria are the other sort of the artillery unit. So if the Sagittarii are the mortar team, for example, well, on the tabletop it's like, let's just get rid of that and let's just give them the Ballisterii, which on the tabletop you see with a dual kit, which is either the Sidonian Dragoon or the Iron Strider Ballisteri, which is effectively the giant chicken walker that has a guy glued into the front. Legs have been chopped off. He's stuck with wires, and he is effectively the purpose of this perpetual motion machine that allows him to charge into combat. And Skitarii hops on the back and either mans a Cognis stubber, a las gun, or
type of
they
heavy weapon.
a heavy weapon, and or they say screw the heavy weapon. They grab a long taser lance and they charge into combat.
Yeah. Now, just to go back for a quick second, I'm not sure if we put our notes wrong or if you said it wrong. The Ballastarii.
Ballastarii, Iron Striders. Yeah.
So our notes are wrong then.
No.
Because the Ballastarii in our notes are responsible for artillery units.
Yeah, like ballista
Yeah. And so the
But cataphracti
are armor units. The range. Yeah, no,
The
ours are
tanks.
correct.
You don't have anything in your notes for the You just say the cataphract.
No, okay, hold on. Ballastarii are artillery units, and they are responsible for ordinatus.
Yes.
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 Cataphracti are responsible for armored units of the Skitarii.
Yes.
So, dune crawlers, rhinos,
Yes.
predators, land raiders, bane blades.
Yes.
So, what was wrong?
My notes say the cataphract.
No, I thought
I'm not
he's-
responsible for that.
I thought you were saying the like Iron Striders within the Ballastarii when they're not.
So a Iron Strider is called a Ballastarii Iron Strider. That is the name. That is the name of the model.
Sure.
And they have heavy weapons. So
Sure.
even though it's on a chicken walker,
Yeah.
it is considered a artillery unit and not an armored cavalry.
Yeah, it's not an
unit.
armor.
Okay, so our notes are wrong. That's what I'm saying.
No.
Yes,
It's an artillery unit.
but in our notes,
Where do we say that chicken walkers are cataphracti?
Iron Striders.
Oh.
Never mind.
Where
Let's
is it-
let's
where-
move
I
past
wasn't
it. I'm
there
just
yet.
trying to give you the fact.
You said that.
What?
Well,
You told me to write that.
Oh, sure.
Well,
and that's what I was wondering. If we were wrong and
see.
I was going to pass
You
on-
were beyond us, Mark. Sorry.
So-
I was still under Ballastaria, and I'm like, we're on Ballastaria. It's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. No,
One
we're
that's,
good.
one that's mentioned though too though is the Ordinatus, which
Get out of
Here, let me
Get
touch-
out of here.
Let me touch you. Let me touch you. Is forgiven.
although it mentions Ordinatus should
We're
not be
touching tips right now.
should not be confused with the part of the Adeptus Mechanicus, which is the Ordo Reductor, who actually controlled the large Ordinatus weaponry.
Yeah.
I had that
okay,
question,
yeah. This was
actually.
a question we were wondering.
So you don't get the artillery guys being like, "Well, I've got my chicken walker. Let me just bring in this giant sonic death cannon.
Sure,
with a
let me
volcano
destroy this
cannon on the
planet."
side." Yeah. So what happens is the Order Reductor is just another piece. Like the Skitarii are one, Cybernetica is another,
Yeah.
Order Reductor is another, Titan Guard or the Skitarii are another. They could all
The Tagmata.
Tagmata,
Yeah.
who focus more on the cybernetic and
Yeah.
really out there.
Yeah.
They're different.
Yeah.
So the next would be the cataphracti, not to be confused with Terminators. Cataphracti are the.
That was such a weird argument.
It wouldn't be an episode without an argument,
Yeah.
though. So
Mark is just giving you
That
bunk
wasn't even an
notes at
argument.
the
This is a
start.
weird misunderstanding.
Aren't they
Anyways.
all?
Yeah, that's true.
cataphracti are the units that are would oversee the upkeep, maintenance, and marching of the dune crawlers, which are hopefully just the first of a heavy weapon platform that's available to the Adeptus Mechanicus.
Oh, and it's such a great model too.
It's your
I love
crab
it.
walker, 4 legs, walks forward, and it has either some sort of stubber, has an eradication ray, which is a Mechanicus Melta, effectively.
Is that the mech in the start collecting box?
That is the 4-legged robot.
Looks like
transport thing.
looks like an AT-ST. Look, I can do Star Wars 2, but with 4 legs.
Well, that would be an ad, Mark.
No. Oh God, you're right.
There,
no, the cockpit I meant. Of the
there
AT-ST.
is also reference to larger things in the cataphracti, which are effectively walking.
Are some
Whoop.
movies matching Archer?
Well, that could have been way weirder.
Yeah, that could have been.
Your porn has been
effectively-
downloaded.
Well,
Here's some movies matching 2 Girls, 1 Cup.
matching a dreadnought, like a ship, like a boat. Give it 12 legs and have it walk along the ground. and so there's been some stuff in the rumor engine that looks like Dune Crawler pieces, but of the other ones. I get really hyped because they are all based on this unit from ancient Mars called the Mule, which is, if you think of what we have on Mars right now, our little rover that has gone to sleep. I like to imagine that
Well, sleep,
rest
you
in
mean
peace.
it died.
it's gone to
Well,
sleep.
you put a new battery in it. It's fine.
If you blow the sand off of his solar panels,
It will start working
and park him
again, yeah.
out in the sun, he'll spark back up.
It's Wally. But so
At some point, they won't, though. That's just how it works.
But if you go to Mars and we get there, and that little robot has somehow rebuilt itself, and now it's like the size of a small grocery store.
Is that something we should be concerned about?
You know
You're
what?
not?
We should write a letter to NASA and be like, I really want to
I'm
make sure you're
deeply
not.
concerned here.
That's what I'm prepping for.
Should we just get Trump to send like a cruise missile and just like fucking nuke Mars?
Probably. Just to be safe.
Yeah.
Just to be safe.
can't trust the red planet. We need to build a wall to keep Mars away.
Space wall.
And that's how the Ring of Iron was built around Mars. We did it wrong. So the cataphracti, though, other other mechanical walkers. And so they get big. Some of them have multiple mounted turrets that move around. Again, not represented on the tabletop yet.
Yeah. Anything that adds more like cool heavy vehicles for the Mechanicus, because they just have such a cool flavor with the Skitarii. Yeah. So it's very
Are they
different.
kind of lacking heavy vehicles on the tabletop, or I don't know much about them.
They have
in the table.
one heavy vehicle as the Dune Crawler, which is their primary tank. It has 4 different like weapon types. The Icarus array is the one that's like strikes fear into people for anti-flyer. You've got the neutron laser, which is what all las guns wish they could be. This gets us more into like the conversation about the different weapon types. But there's a lot of room for this to grow. Which is if you think of demon engines and how different they all look, they all have a basis in something, and that's what I would hope to see more models of.
Yeah, like it's such a new model range, and
they're only going to see more of it as long as they stop
Yeah.
giving us Primaris.
Oh fuck! Good luck, bud.
Well,
we got a new
they've been
Primaris.
giving us a lot of-
A man can dream.
They've been giving us a lot of chaos recently, which has gotten me moist in places I shouldn't be.
Where?
His eyes, he's crying. He's so
Oh, okay. I was like, is it like your upper back? Like that, your place
Fingertips?
Yeah. Odd place. And there's only a couple more that we want to list, and one being protectors. So these are like regular, they're humanoid still shape. These are just individuals. They have been genetically engineered, augmented, and they're known for wearing red robes and bronze masks. That like clothing that they're wearing, as well as like the staffs, the staves that they carry, mark them as bodyguards to tech priests. So they don't function within the real like hierarchy of like the Skitarii Legion. They are specifically
Personal bodyguards.
They're effectively set pieces. You know, you have a new adept tech priest who's going to walk up to a shrine at a Forge World, and there's these 2 protectors, and they talk about how incredibly like dangerous they feel because under those robes it's just nothing but like the highest end technology and things that could move within like just a snap second and destroy 50 orcs in the blink of an eye, and all they ever do is they just stand around and look intimidating. Again,
that makes sense.
Not represented on the tabletop.
No. And then the very last thing are a couple Skitaries.
So they're in a different branch outside the Skitarii.
But they are still Skitarii.
They have been folded into the army on the tabletop. So the one thing that we weren't asking for got folded in as part of a Forge World release line for Titan Guard. Now, they are Skitarii who get loaned out to the Collegia Titanica, and they become Titan Guard. So that's the Skitarii connection. It's not like the Order Reductor. It's like totally different.
Yes. Yeah.
These guys came from Skitarii, and thus they return.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, they're on loan to guard the Titans.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought they received like special augmentations to be able to.
They probably
guard-
do.
They do.
They have like
it doesn't-
magnetic
and they have
legs and
different-
shit like that, so
different-
they can just walk on them.
Well, they will receive upgraded arms that can like withstand the punch of an orc or something like that. Allows them to carry large mag reverter shields, which can effectively it's like Black Panther with that suit that reverses the energy.
Yeah.
This has been a pop culture bonanza episode, I have to say. It's because realistically the Adeptus Mechanicus is an army that has so many bits and pieces from all over pop culture of like, you want weird sci-fi?
Well, it's
They're
so
everywhere.
steampunky.
Yeah.
It's really sci-fi. It's really grungy and dirty.
It's also hard to talk about though without making these other examples because it's not
because it pulls so much from so many things, kind of thing, or
well, yeah, but it's also you don't really have a basic language. If you say there's a guardsman, it's a guy in space with a laser gun. You go, okay. Now you say I have a Skitarii. It's a genetically augmented human being with
cybernetically enhanced.
Yeah, you have to do a lot more talking through of all the different things that make them. Did I mention that their priests can use them like a puppet? Sorry, these cyborgs have priests? Like, it gets a little weird. But so the Titan Guard, they have the Skitarii Axiarchs, the Hoplites, and the Peltas.
Yeah.
Axiarchs are the leaders. The Hoplites are those guys with the shields, and the Arc Lances. They would be the ones running at a close range, or to say if anything's going to...
or like if Tyranids are climbing up the Titan's legs, they'll be the ones fighting on the legs to keep the...
That's the whole purpose. Yeah, they're literally there to make sure nothing gets stuck in the gears of the legs.
Yeah, they're just make sure...
Spears are more just like to get stuff out.
They're scraping it off.
Yeah, exactly. They're squeegees.
Yeah.
Cleaning
I'm
it
going to
out.
do a kit bash of a Skitarii hoplite with a squeegee, and he's going to be standing next to Mark's Titan and just squeezing off a bunch
You
of
just got to
Skitarii.
put a small magnet behind of one of Mark's armor plates on the leg, and then a magnet on the base of your model, and it'll stick on there.
Yeah, don't touch my
But we
Titan.
established I can't put magnets on a Skitarii. I'm going to wipe his brain.
That's how you do it.
And then the last one is the Skitarii Peltas, who were really cool rules-wise in 7th. Some of it's carried over, but what they're giving is they're given multi-purpose weaponry. So they're kind of like what you get from Death Watch, where they have a gun that has 3 different functions.
Sure.
So they either have a long-range heavy, so it's just like a high-impact shell. They can either do a short-range, like rapid-fire energy weapon, or what they can do is they can also shoot indirectly. So it's like shooting like little rocket-propelled grenades.
So
yes,
something
mortar
you don't
shots.
need line of sight for.
Yes. The other cool
pretty
thing, though,
cool.
and one that's touched in one of the books, is that it's not a Skitarii, but I think this probably was inspired or inspired it, is that they shoot a canister up into the air, they explode, and it turns into all of this gas. Well, then they light that on fire. So in the tabletop, you can actually shoot these. The guns can detonate the clouds of this weapon profile, create cover. But in the books, they've also used that to detonate, and that same sort of technology, they detonate, they light it on fire, and then as Tyranid bioforms are flying through this to land on the planet, they're catching on fire and dying before they hit landfall.
You got to be very sure which one of those you're firing.
Yeah,
Give that
right?
squad cover.
I accidentally light them on fire.
Yeah, you got to be very careful for sure.
I meant to provide them cover with my fucking death fog.
There's actually only,
As it leaves, as a thunk, you look down at your. Oh, shit.
there's a 13% chance of this on the Forge World of Graia. We have been attempting to reduce this problem for the last 3,000 years.
Yeah, and that's kind of the end of.
Pretty good understanding of Skitarii.
Yeah, that's everything we felt we wanted to share. As you feel like we're missing anything?
4 weapon types. You've got the graviton, which is like that earth gravity pressure weapons. You've got the phosphor, lights people on fire. It's effectively napalm, really. Well, it's more than that, but
or to be like more like a white phosphorus kind
it
of
is a
thing,
white phosphor, yeah.
where that shit just does not burn out. It'll burn
Yep.
underwater.
Yep. You've got radium, which is, well, radiation. But the last one we didn't mention is arc. We've mentioned this is one of my favorite parts of the army. It's the cool looking blue weapon. It has like a light blue glow, white kind of highlight edges on it. It's crackling electricity.
Yeah. Shoots lightning bolts.
You're shooting lightning.
As an electrician, I find this particularly appealing.
Yeah. In the book Skitarius, the character for Stroika, he's got these 2 arc rifle pistols, and what happens is he just will electrocute orcs, and they're burning and singeing from the heat of the electricity. Their bodies are convulsing. But what he'll then do is he'll just pop what is effectively the magazine shells out of the bombs of them.
The AA batteries, yeah.
His legs will open up because they are prosthetic. They open up, new battery magazines will pop up. He'll slam the trips of the pistols into the thigh loaders on his titanium legs, reloads them, guns back up. And it is
Very cinematic.
very
yeah.
cool. Very cool. And so when they a lot of the time when they're holding onto these weapons, they also integrate into their cybernetic.
Yeah, I did also hear that they can actually get like data inputs right into their weapons.
Yep. So as their weapons are shooting things, they're
like
parts of
their brain is like accounting for recoil, and they like just know
Yes.
exactly how much
Yeah.
like
And the gun is feeding information back too. Oh, it's the pressure here. I'm giving 0.2% more
exactly
recoil.
yeah, or I'm going to the left or I'm going to the right. Like
Yeah, oh, it's a little windy here, dog. So just aim
Exactly,
like
yeah.
12 degrees to the right.
soldiers in this army are supported by incredible information, heads-up displays, but all these things are also being made automatic by their cogitator and their brain working in this perfect, blissful machine god. Like just it's
Perfect.
yeah, perfect. It's a synergy. So again, they're collecting this data. They're firing off. It's a elite force that. When you think about the scope of the army, though, this is the other half of the Imperium. Mars and the Mechanicus, this would be their equivalent of the Imperial Guard.
Yeah.
it's definitely not as many as the
Not as many,
Imperial Guard.
but they try to make
But
up for
they're a
that
lot
quantity
better.
with a better quality.
Yeah.
Much better quality. Yeah. Anything else we want to share before we cut her loose?
cut loose to the wind, I think, bud.
Get your unessential memories wiped. You are made for combat now.
Grind those
Yeah,
limbs off.
I'm signing up for to get my legs ground here before we go.
Yeah.
Jeez,
I gotta-
make some hamburger.
I gotta green stuff some more robes.
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
got
is
your
there-
green stuff roller in my car.
Oh, excellent.
Is there a difference on the tabletop if you have the robes on your Skitarii? Does it add anything?
Plus
or-
one to
or-
weapon skill.
And ballistic skill.
They,
ballistics.
they are not considered a special piece of war gear.
Okay.
I think that actually could be a way for them to
At the very least, it should be a relic.
there should be a relic. I agree that was a way that they could grow in additional campaign books. Is that you give a Skitarii a special piece of their war gear that gives them better saves or gives them their squad a higher leadership.
Yeah, I was going to say, sounds like you want better leadership.
Well, it's
Their units are pretty small, so
yeah.
yeah.
And that's reflected in the
you're not having
fiction too.
you're not having like 15 squad units. So.
The last one though, a lot of servo skulls with this army. Skitarii infiltrators have them.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way: if you're buying an Adeptus Mechanicus army, you're going to have servo skulls all over the place. They fit into any model.
Oh, yeah.
very well.
Always.
And usually, what happens is a Skitarii Primus or an Alpha will have one that's kind of like a parrot that will sit on his shoulder and fly off, survey, scout
You can
the
send him
battlefield,
for
and come
scouting
back.
missions
Yep.
and stuff. I think in that Skitarius book, he makes pretty good use of his skull there.
That one also has a little bit of a personality,
Yeah.
which is great because it kind of just like chirps about and Skitarii work alongside the other piece of the Mechanicus, the cult Mechanicum. So they are surrounded by servitors and they recognize that they're different than them and they kind of have this strange kind of cousin fealty. They treat servitors a lot better than people in the Imperium do. If you're a guardsman,
Yeah.
you're kind of repulsed. You're like, this is
They know that that's their last step in life.
Yeah.
is to be a servitor.
Yeah. So whereas Skitarii will actually speak to them as they are as divinely blessed by the Omnissiah, and they treat them with a little bit more respect, which the first time you see that, you're like, these things look, they have no gums. They are like half their face is gone. Servitors are terrifying to look at. And then you have someone who's just like being just respectful to it.
Treating it like a person again, almost.
Well, it's again that idea of like there's machine spirits. There's this
machine
divinity.
is
they have a
everything.
connection, a better connection to the Omnissiah than your average person.
Yeah,
For
Yeah.
sure.
So.
Well,
In the great gears of the Mechanicus machine, the fighting constructs of the Omnissiah become greater than their parts. Gentlemen, let's hold hands and say a silent prayer for our machine guys. Why aren't you holding my... great.
You've clearly turned
I'll
off
just
your...
do the sign of the gear. I don't want to hold your hands.
Can't trust them now.
Yeah, you never know.
Thank you, guys.
well, thank you for coming on the podcast, Colin. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, thanks for the invite, guys.
Yeah.
I hope you guys have like a pretty clear understanding of the Skitarii, the Legion Skitarii now of the Cult Mechanicus.
If you don't email us,
yeah, Colin will be more than
Email
happy.
Colin specifically.
He'll be more than happy to
find
help
me
you out
online.
with
You
that.
can find Lorehammer on Facebook, on Instagram.
Facebook, Instagram. I don't know.
Could be at 3,000 followers on Instagram in any second now.
Yeah. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Join us for an Instagram live. Those are pretty
Yeah,
fun.
Mark does some great painting hangouts.
Phew.
He does okay painting. He does
Wow.
painting hangouts.
There we go.
Mark does hangouts.
Yeah.
Mark
there we go.
hangs out
Every once in a while, Christian is on there too.
Then it's okay.
Yeah.
for the last time.
For the last time, of course. No, he's not allowed on anymore. Anyways, that's us wrapping up, guys. See you later.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Praise be to the Omnissiah.